not good. Okay, not good. It's fine. Good night to St. Lucie. Good night to my friends from St. Joseph who came all this way through the rain. And good night to all of the Barbados Labour Party family. Good night to, take off the hat, your hat off. Yeah. Good night to all of you who have come out to hear the message that we have to present to you. I am standing on a platform in Checker Hall, St. Lucie, but it could have been any place in Barbados. We could have been in St. Joseph, we could have been in St. Peter, St. Philip, we could have been in St. John. We could have been speaking from any location in Barbados because not a man has been spared the heavy whips and chains of this wicked and demonic Democratic Labour Party. I wouldn't ordinarily call anybody or anything demonic, but Ronald Jones started it. So if he could call our children demonic, I feel at liberty to call the Dems administration, not the people. The DLP supporters are people like you and I. But those individuals who sit in our parliament every day presiding over the downfall of this country must be demonic. Somebody, a former prime minister of this party, you good now? A former prime minister of this country who came from the bosom of this party used to say all of the time that a government exists to stop poor people from being poor. And if Barbados Labour Party supporters understand anything, it is about how a successful Barbados Labour Party administration for 14 years put Barbadians and Barbados on a path of growth, stopped Barbadians from being poor, and gave them a sense of pride. But in 10 years, all of that has been wiped out. Completely wiped out. I am embarrassed to know that a man named Frandell Stewart came into St. Lucie last Sunday night. He went to church in St. Lucie last Sunday night. And what was reported in the newspaper was that he told the Democratic Labour Party following in that congregation that the Dems have nothing to be ashamed about. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that Frandell Stewart, who has presided over 23 downgrades, who has presided over the Cahill scandal, who has presided over a South Coast scandal, who has presided over the pauperization of Barbadians, who has presided over a state of affairs where we have more potholes than we have road, who has presided over a country that is now the laughing stock not only of the Caribbean but of the world. How could he tell the Democratic Labour Party following that they have nothing to be ashamed of? You know, Barbados was in a state of prosperity and development throughout the 90s and for the most part of the 2000s. Because we had a dedicated team in Parliament that served not just the BLP constituencies, but that felt that every single part of Barbados, including St. Lucie, was desirous of receiving the benefits of our economy. So even though a man named Dennis Kelman, I'm not going to call him a nuisance or say anything bad about him, but even though a man named Dennis Kelman represented St. Lucie for the Dems in Parliament, we felt that St. Lucie deserved every single bit of care as much as the Barbados Labour Party constituencies. When we said in 2004 that we were going to create 30,000 jobs, we did not say we were going to create 30,000 jobs for our BLP supporters. Those 30,000 jobs were for our Barbadians, whether you came from St. John or St. Lucie, Christchurch, St. Philip, or whether you lived on the East Coast Road. Because for us, inclusion meant that every single Barbadian has to benefit. But we are now living in a country that is divided into two. We're living in a country that is divided into those areas that have the benefits and those areas that do not. Now, I can almost understand why they ignore St. Joseph. Because they say St. Joseph belonged to the Labour Party, so we left them roads to rot with. I could understand why they would ignore St. Andrew. Because St. Andrew, they will say, got a Barbados Labour Party MP. And St. Thomas, and St. Peter, and St. James for the most part. But I do not understand how the Democratic Labour Party could decide that they're going to neglect Kelly. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I understand the neglect of us in St. Joseph because that is spite. They practice the politics of spite. So they will spite the people of St. Joseph and rejoice in the fact that we don't have water. Up to this week, places in Bowling Alley did not have water for 3 and 4 days. Up to this week. And they rejoice in that because they say St. Joseph belonged to the bees. But St. Lucie does not belong to the bees. Dennis Kelman, Edmund just told you, represented this constituency for 23 years. And the only thing that Dennis Kelman can point to is a place called Moontown. Now, I understand that Moontown does a bustling business with an internet cafe, a hardware store, a grocery store, a restaurant, and a sports bar, all of which are owned by Dennis Kelman. Because in his mind, the development of Dennis Kelman is equal to the development of St. Lucie. I heard him say so. There are numerous videos of Dennis Kelman on Facebook where he says, I want you to come and spend money with me. I want to develop Moontown. Dennis Kelman, by his actions, are focused only on the benefit of Dennis Kelman. And it is only now in the dying days of a Democratic Labour Party administration that Dennis Kelman is calling up and deploying MTW every day for the chief technical officer to ask about roads. Because St. Lucie didn't have roads last year, and year before, and the year before that. And if you had them, it didn't matter to him one bit. Didn't matter to him one bit. As far as he was concerned, he was taking his seat in Parliament, and the devil could take this constituency. But the time is coming for St. Lucie to change. I believe that as sure as I believe the sun is rising tomorrow. The time is coming for St. Lucie to change. I am convinced that St. Lucie is going to vote red and vote right because the Barbados Labour Party is red and we are ready to save the people, not just of St. Lucie, but up and down this country, and so help me God, even the people in St. John. Even the people in St. John. If a government is not focused on the poorest of the poor, if the government is not focused on bringing everybody up, then what good is it? Do you know that on Monday morning, Transport Board only had 62 buses on the road? to cover the entire of this country. 62 buses on the road. They have not bought a bus since they have not bought any. The last buses were bought when the Barbados Labour Party was in government. So if you are one of the lucky people in St. Lucie to have a job, we're going to finish this meeting a little early so you can start walking, because you can be sure there ain't a bus to carry you to work tomorrow. And the people in St. Joseph's get no bus. You know, as a little boy, I remember when the bus service used to end at 7 o'clock. Bus service used to end at 7 o'clock. You remember it. But it's ending at 4 o'clock now. Because you can go into the bus stand at 3:30. A bus leaves the bus stand. You didn't get in it because they may have none for 4 hours. And you literally have to wait there until 9 o'clock. School children are going into the bus stand hoping and praying for a bus to get home, but by the time they get home at 8 o'clock, they're too tired and hungry to do their homework. These might seem like small things, but there's a ripple effect. When a student does not get home in good time, he can't do his homework. If he can't do his homework, then he performs poorly in school. If he performs poorly in school, then we have another set of problems. If you cannot get to work on time, you lose your job because you're consistently late, and then you have another set of problems. But Dennis Kelman has the gall to say to you, I want your support, St. Lucie. And the Democratic Labour Party has the gall to offer Dennis Kelman as a representative for the people of St. Lucie. Peter Phillips, your time has come. I don't see Peter in this crowd. I believe he's somewhere getting ready. He's coming on right after me, and I hope that you bring him on with a resounding cheer. But Peter Phillips, your time has come. St. Lucie has waited a whole generation. A whole generation. Anybody who was born 23 years ago would have been born when Dennis Kelman first got elected. 23 years have passed, and not a thing has been done in this constituency. Dennis Kelman is easily the worst Minister of Housing in Barbados, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in St. Lucia. Dennis Kelman must be the worst Minister of Housing anywhere in the Caribbean. He does not receive the respect of his colleagues. They're cursing behind his back at Parliament. They make mock sport of what he has to say. But yet still that party will come and tell you that Dennis Kelman should have the honor of representing this party, this constituency. His time has come to an end. You will not find a more sincere human being than Peter Phillips. He is a God-fearing man. He is a man who understands not just suffering, but how to alleviate that suffering. I am told about an instance in this constituency where a private individual decided they were going to virtually provide housing for a family of very poor people. Dennis Kelman was approached and did not lift a finger to get involved. This is in St. Lucia. But the day that the house was being handed over to the people, Dennis Kelman showed up with the press. He did not lift a hand. I defied Dennis Kelman to deny it. Did not lift a hand to offer a 10-penny nail. But he showed up the day the house was being handed over with the press. Now, remember that this election, they have said, is going to be nasty. They have said it. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. They have decided that this election is going to be nasty because they have no program to defend. So if you have no program to defend, when you get on the platform, all that you can do is curse people. If you have no policy to defend, when you get on the platform, all you will do is curse people. And when Chris Sinkler gets on the platform, he knows that he cannot defend Freundel Stuart as Prime Minister, so he will curse people. They can't defend the Minister of Housing, so another set of cursing. The cursing and the carrying on that they have promised, though, will reflect more upon them than upon us. My mother always said, if you point one finger at somebody else, there are three pointing back at you. So you can expect a nasty campaign, but it will come from them. Mia Mottley has already determined that the platform of the Barbados Labour Party will be about holding out a brighter day for Barbados, a better future for Barbados. For us, this election will not be nasty. It will be about weighing the Democratic Labour Party and their poor performance in the balance, and this country will let them know that they have been found wanting. That's what this election is going to be about. We are coming to the people of Barbados to say to them that better can be done. The Democratic Labour Party wants you to believe that better can't be done. Because if better can't be done, they will argue, well, why bother to change? Theirs is not a voice of hope. This is a voice of despair. If the bees can't do no better, then why bother to change the Dems? That is the message that they want to send to you. But we have been there before, and we have rescued this country, and the Barbados Labour Party's team stands ready and able to rescue it again. We have a team that is experienced. We have a team that has the necessary intellect. We have a decent team. We have a team that knows about service. And this team is being led by Mia Amor Mottley, a woman who is a thinker, a woman who is seen across the region as a leader, and somebody in whom the people of Barbados could put their trust. Frandell Stewart is a fish of a totally different kind. Frandell Stewart is the Prime Minister because the Constitution says we have to have one. Frandell Stewart lives in Illawarra Court. He drives in the Prime Minister's car. He gets the Prime Minister's salary. He has the Prime Minister's chauffeur. But he does not have the Prime Minister's shoes. He may have some of the outward trappings of the Prime Minister, but the things that a leader knows would require him to go and walk among the poor and the needy, like Mia Mottley does every day, Frandell Stewart does not have. Just like Dennis Kelman, Frandell Stewart is the worst Prime Minister that this country has ever had visited on us. He talks pretty. Talk very pretty. Does that mean I got to stop? Or that is, oh, fine. Good, thank you. Frandell Stewart talks pretty. He says things to make you laugh. But at the end of it all, you're left asking yourself, what is it that he was saying to me? He has what the classical people would call a wonderful turn of phrase. But he is easily the most shallow human being you could ever want to find. Frandell Stewart could not plan a fight in a rum shop. He could not sell a snow cone on Spring Garden on a hot Kadooment day. But he drives in the Prime Minister's car. I'm making that point to demonstrate to you that just because you have the outward trappings, it doesn't make you a leader. You see, the Dems, when he comes into Parliament, they don't even want to get up. But they say, yes, Prime Minister, because that is his title. But he doesn't lead like a Prime Minister. He doesn't know how to lead like a Prime Minister. And even if he knew how, the bunch of individuals that he has under his charge, I'm not going to say anything bad about them. We have a Minister of Finance who wants to present to Parliament next week, or this week, his 7th national development, we are going to bring you to glory, hallelujah, everything is going to be good plan. Every year he comes with a new plan, with a new name. He finds new things to put into it. The problem is that all of the previous 6 plans failed. And with the election due a mere 40 days away, he's now coming with a miracle plan. He has this miracle plan now. I don't like horse racing. I'm not a big horse racing fan, but I see a few horse racing fans in here. If you used to go to the Garrison on Saturdays, and this Saturday you bet on a horse and it lost. You go out next Saturday, you bet on the same horse and it lost. And you keep betting on that horse, you don't think that sooner or later common sense would tell you that you should either keep your money in your pocket or bet on a different horse. The people of Barbados bet on the Democratic Labour Party horse in 2008. And you have lost every year, every day, every week, every hour, every minute since then. They came back in 2013, and somehow or another they managed to get the election to go in their favor. We know who did it, but they're not going to get it do again. And you continue to lose. We are now celebrating the strangest of things. I remember when the mantra for Barbados was, we are not going for the bronze, we're not going for the silver, we are going for the... You remember that? And then we used to say, no child will be left behind. Because those were the things that we felt a country should embrace. But in the year 2018, we are being asked to believe that the Democratic Labour Party, after presiding over 23 downgrades, it's not an interesting coincidence. Dennis Kelman served in Parliament for 23 years. So let's go the other way. We have had 23 downgrades. You want a 24th? Dennis has had 23 years. You want to give him a 24th? This is not so hard, you know. This is not so hard. I am asking you to have confidence, not because of the fact that you may be Barbados Labour Party supporters. I want you to have confidence in the history of this institution. We have caused this country to achieve greatness before, and we can do it again. I want you to have confidence in Peter Phillips. I want you to have confidence in Cynthia Ford and Nedma Hickson and Kerry Simmons and Sandra Husbands. I want you to have confidence in every single individual that we present to you, not just because of some blind loyalty to the Barbados Labour Party, but because you recognize in all of them, and hopefully in me, that we represent a team of individuals who bring seriousness about governance. You know, if Frondell Stewart leading this country could not understand why it was wrong for him to say that, as far as he was concerned, Leroy Paris is no pariah, he's his good friend, and he should find a lawyer. In the face of the bitterest blow that Barbadian investors had to face, he could not understand, he didn't have it in his bosom to recognize that his loyalty lay not to his friend, but to the people who he asked to have confidence in his leadership. He couldn't understand that. And so when everybody in Barbados had the Cahill report, his excuse was he hadn't seen it yet. It was all over the paper, but he hadn't seen it yet. And he said that no Cahill documents were signed, but we produced a Cahill Memorandum of Understanding signed by Frondell Stewart. That is the nature of the government today. But those are exactly the things that we have to leave behind at the start of 2018. We know that the road ahead is going to be rough. It isn't going to be rough because of anything we in the Barbados Labour Party wish to impose on our people. It is going to be rough because they have left such an ungodly mess behind that it is going to take us some time to clear it up. But we promise you that every single day after we are victorious at the polls, every single member of the Barbados Labour Party team will roll up his sleeves, go to work, with all of our might to bring this country back to where it can be. And we are going to be led by a woman who I'm sure will go down in history, not just as being the first female prime minister in Barbados, but perhaps one of the finest that the Caribbean has ever seen. We are going to be represented in St. Lucie by a brilliant young man who has the touch of the common people. We are going to be represented in Parliament by a Cynthia Ford who knows nothing but love and does not know what hatred means. We are going to be represented by people, by a man like Kirk Humphrey, who has a big surprise in for Frondell Stewart. Kirk, are you here? I am seeing a red light, so I think that means I have 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. I'm going to use them wisely. There's an exercise going on in Parliament. Now remember that Parliament now only has just about 38 days of life left. And the Prime Minister has said, I am going to carry you down to the wire. The only problem is that he didn't tell the people of Barbados how near or how far the wire is. But when he said in St. Lucie that they have nothing to be ashamed of, I want to ask you this. They were elected for a maximum of a 5-year term. That 5-year term under the Constitution starts not on the day of election, but on the day of the first sitting of Parliament. Those are the rules. So that 5-year term will come to an end about the 6th of March. But I believe that the Prime Minister of Barbados wants to carry this country into an election beyond the 5th of March. Now let me tell you what that means to me. You see, as at the 5th of March, there will no longer be a parliament. No longer be a parliament. But we will have cabinet ministers who will be able to give out contracts without any parliamentary oversight. We will have cabinet ministers who will be able to lick out the government's money to try to ensure that they're successful at the polls one more time. We will have cabinet ministers who will walk up and down this country getting fat with their chest high in the air, reaping the benefits, but condemning the people of this country forever to damnation if they win. Talk about shame. If you are given a notice to quit by your landlord, you have no right staying on an extra week, an extra 2 weeks. But Frondell seems to have it in his head that he could stay on for an extra 3 months. We have to abide by the Constitution. But I want you to make him pay for every single day that they remain in government of this country after the 6th of March by refusing to give them your ex and by placing them against Peter Phillips' name, George Payne name, Cynthia Ford name, Kirk Humphrey name, Charles Griffith name. Put every single X against the Barbados Labour Party candidate. And every X that you put will be a stripe across the back of Frondell Stewart and Chris Sinclair and every single one of those Democratic Labour Party demons. I want you to send them exactly where they belong and do it with your X on election day. Good night and God bless.